Welcome to the Heallist podcast, where we inspire and guide healers through business expansion. We give voice to incredibly abundant healers to share their stories. We dive into the quantum field to unlock the energies of conscious creation. We also develop digital tools to help you grow, which you can find on Heallist.com. I'm your host, Yuli, and I'm grateful you chose to join this space. Now let's go deep. Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to the very first episode of the Heallist podcast for 2024. I'm super excited to be back after a little bit of a break and kicking off 2024 into the high gear. And I think a lot of us in the space are right now in this expansion mode. At least this is what I am seeing. And I really felt very compelled to do our first episode on the topic of expansion and getting your message out there through publicity, tapping into the flow of mass attention. And how do we do that in a conscious way? And I couldn't think of a better guest to cover this topic than Lydia Belton, also known as Dr. Tranquility. Lydia is a renowned practitioner of relaxation physiology and mind-body medicine. She's a wellness and relationship and anxiety relief expert, national syndicated radio podcast host at iHeart Radio, syndicated to 14 AM FM markets nationally. She received media coverage and reputable outlets, including the Chicago Tribune, the ABC's The View, Glamour, Redbook, Cosmopolitan magazines, and Forbes.com. And her own media journey led her to establishing a PR agency, Satori X PR, for the wellness and spiritual community. Through her affiliation with the Hay House, she contributed to campaigns for Dr. Wayne Dyer and Dr. Joe Vitale and many others. And she has her own DIY PR course starting this month, where she leads participants in private and group sessions. I'm so excited to talk to Lydia and just tap into your wisdom. You seem to really crack the code about getting your message out there and helping others. So I always like to set intention for each episode, and I would love for us to empower our listeners to speak up and know how to do it and know where to spread their message and get into this expansion mode, which we're here to guide them through.
Thank you. Well, thank you. That was amazing. Lovely introduction. And I'm so excited to be here.
So where should we start? I think there's so many questions I would like to ask you. And, I always like to bring people that kind of have this dual expertise, right? You are a practitioner yourself and guide to many others, but you also really savvy on everything that relates to media coverage and business and publicity. So I'm always intrigued by people like yourself. How do you kind of balance those both sides? And I would love to hear from you, how those two sides may be balanced in yourself even. And where do you see they merge together?
Well, first of all, I would have to say that, you have to give yourself grace. When you're merging being a practitioner with a business like PR and a radio show, and I'm also a hypnotic anesthesiologist as a practitioner, which is just further credentialing in hypnotherapy, you have to create a space where you can set aside one business and take up the next. I myself am a manifesting generator, so I thrive on going from business to business to business, but everyone isn't that way. And so it's important just to understand who you are when you start to take on multiple roles.
Yes, agreed completely. And it's definitely not a path for everyone. And do you have any practical tips? How do you
Absolutely.
manage that?
I do a lot of meditation. I do actually, but the best way is just to decide to start. Doing your own PR can be complicated, but it can also be very wonderful and rewarding. And it teaches you a lot about people and the business aspects of the business, because sometimes as practitioners, we're not always the best business people. We're healers. And so it teaches you how to find that balance, how to find the line in between being a practitioner and honoring your business.
Right.
And that involves having the confidence to request certain fees for your PR work if you're doing it for someone else. If you're doing it for yourself, then Instagram is a great resource to use. I will just say that. Really wonderful resource to utilize to make connections and contacts. And I have a smaller account. I'm only 22,000 and then 6,000 on my dating and relationship account. But you still can connect. You can DM people. You can get them on your podcast. You can make new friends. You can get the word out. It's a wonderful resource. Snapchat is good, but Instagram is more the business angle of doing your own PR work.
Wow, fascinating. And I think, a lot of our listeners, they have kind of love-hate relationship with Instagram, right? There's so many beautiful things about it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but it also feels like, especially for someone who practices every day and they probably away from their phone for most part of the day, you feel like this pressure, you start feeling this pressure. It's very easy to get sucked into that feeling of, I'm not doing enough, I should be there more, the FOMO, all kinds of emotions that it brings with it, right? So how do you tackle that?
Well, for some, it can be a wonderful adjunct or wonderful extra activity when you look at it as its own business. For others, it might be better to hire someone. I'm doing my own DIY course on the 27th of this month because I want people to learn how to do their own PR and what that looks like and what things are required and what things are optional.
Got it. So you're saying start with releasing that pressure and look at it more as a fun activity that you do for yourself and your business.
It is meant to be fun.
I agree.
And if you approach it from that direction, then the way that you go about it will just blossom for you if you're coming from a place of love and grace with yourself. Because we all beat up on ourselves a little bit as practitioners when we try to step into the PR space. I've been doing spiritual PR, now conscious PR, and for the health and wellness and spiritual communities for more than a decade. So I have a lot of time at doing both. So it's a little bit different. Don't ever compare yourself to someone else because they're a completely different person with completely different skills. So as you step into the PR arena, figuring out your skill set is really important. Figuring out what isn't in your skill set is actually very important. And then bring in a freelancer to handle that aspect for you.
What is one skill that you think is absolutely necessary to be able to do your own PR successfully?
Well, the way that I do it, and it's different, I use my intuition. So I will be on Instagram and scrolling, and all of a sudden I'll get an idea of exactly who might be a good fit for one of my clients. And I'll just intuitively and instinctively know it. And then I'll reach out, and sure enough, they usually 99% of the time, they reach back out. You need to be a good connector. You need to be able to connect with people. If you can connect with people where they are, you'll be an excellent publicist.
I love it. So you're bringing some of the healing skills like intuition into this work and basically saying, use your own toolbox, but in this different capacity.
Right. Exactly.
I love it so much. And outside of scrolling on Instagram, where else you can use your intuition, or where else would you even look into expansion?
Well, I mean, let's take, for example, the Awaken Fair where we met. You instinctively and intuitively know, looking around the room, who is a fit for you to meet, for your clients, for yourself. And then you go about meeting them. And usually if you intuitively know it, and all of us healers use our intuition all the time. So connecting with people intuitively, using that intuition to connect is really paramount. It's very important.
You're saying use it on Instagram, but use it also in physical events?
Use it all the time. Use it all the time. Because you're usually right. If you have a gut feeling about something and you have the information and clarity to back it up, you're usually correct.
And in terms of attending events like the Awaken Fair and so many other conferences that are kind of popping up, some of them have been around for a while, some of them are new. You know, when I speak to a lot of practitioners, they say, oh, I don't have time to attend conferences. I'm just like busy in my office, my practice. I don't have capacity for that. What do you have to say on that, and how you suggest people use those events and maybe look at them from a different angle?
I would have to say, looking at them from a different angle, you utilize the event as a connector. That's what it's for. You utilize Instagram as a connector. That's what it's for. So if you approach it from that place, that you're there to meet new people, yay, then you're going to enjoy what you're doing and you'll be amazed by who you'll meet. And also set an intention before you go into a live event, especially, or you go on to Instagram, and really decide with clarity what it is that you're looking for. Who do you want to attract? Who would you like to work with? And know what that is going in.
Right. No, it's a great advice. Thank you. And just to kind of take a one tiny step back, when a lot of people think about PR, they think about traditional media, right? They think what they see kind of in front of their eyes is an article or a feature or some traditional publication endorsing them in a way. And what you're saying is, and maybe it's something we should define a little better for our listeners, what it encompasses as the field, because it seems like your field of PR is much more expanded than that kind of narrow point of view, right?
Yes, it is. And it's because it comes from a spiritual basis. I do health and wellness PR as well, but I started in spiritual PR. It gives you an open space to meet wonderful people where they are, to create as a collaboration a way of putting these people forward so that you're showing them with all of their best aspects and you're helping them to get the word out. Because there are so many wonderful healers, but it's similar to what I say in my relationship protocol. They're not going to come knock on your door, while you sit on the couch eating ice cream. You've got to get out there to be a part of it. Now, I don't have to get out there as much as I once did, but that's because I've earned that place. But if you're just starting out, you've got to get out there. You've got to connect with people. You've got to talk with people. You've got to communicate. You have to find out what they need. And then you can offer your PR services. Like basically for me, I don't have a standard PR package. I find out what the practitioner or the business needs and where they're looking to go. And from that point, the package is created.
And how do you suggest for people to even start thinking about that possibility? Because I think a lot of people that not even aware what the possibilities are in terms of, getting publicity. What if you're just a practitioner that is looking to grow their practice and maybe switch into the more of a teacher and a leader mode, which I see a lot of people are in this mode these days, right? They looking to,
Mhm.
move away maybe or downsize their one-on-one practice and move into more group practices just because there's so much demand that they physically cannot accommodate the individual appointments anymore, right? Or they want to be able to impact groups more because so many people need their services these days. So how do you
Right.
even start thinking about like where do I want to be? What are my PR goals? Because a lot of times they might be starting from a blank page completely.
Mhm. Well, think about what you do, what you want to express to the world about what you do, and what your intention is once you've expressed yourself. What do you want to gain? What's the goal? And be real with yourself. If your goal is to be in magazines or radio or TV or podcasts, then focus on that. If your goal is to do a lot of speaking engagements, then you focus there and bring that in for yourself and connect with people who can introduce you to the people you need to meet to take those stages. And a publicist who can take you from a speaker to a keynote is very important if speaking engagements is what you're going for.
How do you go from a speaker to a keynote? I'm gonna put you on a spot right here.
That's one of my little secrets. Yeah, having time in and the publicist having the right connections helps. In fact, it is the way. So that's why I'm saying make those connections early on because you'll carry them with you throughout your personal PR.
As a practitioner, if you are looking to do your own PR, and obviously we see clear advantages of benefits of working with someone as experienced as yourself, but if you're just starting out and you want to dip your toes maybe and doing your own PR outside of Instagram, where else? What's some of the other maybe easy doorways that they can open themselves?
There really are these days. There are more opportunities, but not as many easy doorways. You're going to spend a little money. So, set aside how much you want to spend to accomplish this. You can do some things for free, but very few. And they're not really going to get you where you need to be in most cases. You might want to take a package with your local natural awakenings. I, do a lot of work with central and northern New Jersey, that particular issue of the magazine. And it's really important that you, again, think about what is my intention? What do I want to get out of this? Hire a publicist. And publicists for $99 are basically worth $99. You're not going to get what you need with someone who's not charging you properly because a lot of what they're accomplishing for you and acquiring for you will cost money.
Talking more about sponsorship packages, working with like media publications or events in a sponsor capacity, right?
Not necessarily. I would say it's more about if you're doing a magazine, then you would take a package, which might be an article and some sort of promotion and an ad, right? An advertisement. And you would take a package on that to run in the magazine, but brace yourself because you need to be in it at least a couple of times for people to recognize you, for you to become familiar.
It's not just the one hit that, you invest and you get a straight return.
Sometimes we're very fortunate, aren't we? And you may have that one hit that gives you the big return. Most of the time, It's about repetition. You can accomplish repetition in many different ways. You can do a magazine and then a podcast, and you promote the podcast on Instagram, and you also do a speaking engagement, and you tie them all in together with videos or reels. There are ways of hitting the public with your information, because it's kind of a collaboration. You want to get in front of people, but you also want those people to receive. So if you're hoping that they're going to receive, you need to have a broad spectrum sort of approach, right? Because you can't just funnel it in one direction. You need to have them interlocking, coming from these different pathways, different avenues, right? So that's what I would recommend. I would recommend you sit down, you think about what your budget is, because you have to have a budget. You have to have a budget. You can also look up podcasts and see what people are doing, and then DM the podcast to see if you can get on. But getting on can be quite easy because they're smaller podcasts, and that's a great way to practice what you're doing. But others, it's harder to get on without experience. It's like that old adage, well, how do you get the experience if you don't get on? Right? So I would recommend going to smaller podcasts and reaching out to them, and then also getting your courage up, learning how to speak, what you want to say, how you want to come across is key also.
And you hit a very important topic of, how do you know that you're ready? You're ready for this expansion and all this attention that's going to come with it. And how do you know what to say and when to say, and what your messaging is that, not only going to be seen and heard today, but something that could be long lasting. Because we all know the content today sometimes lives online for many, many years and decades. And it's something that, not to get too perfectionist about things, we all need to practice and we all evolve. But at the same time, shaping your message in a way that it really resonates with where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I mean, you hire someone like me. You take a DIY PR course to really understand the ins and the outs. Starting in the business, I made a lot of mistakes. We all do, because I had to learn how to go about doing this. So that's one reason why the course is so good. And you can join with 3 people, you can have one-on-one coaching, or you can take a package. Because it helps you to really get those fundamentals down so that you know what you're doing and you don't go through the same process that I did, which is basically one of elimination of bad ideas. And there weren't too many bad ideas. And if you have a feeling for something, you have a flair for something, you feel like you really want to get your message out, then you're ready to get your message out. Don't doubt yourself. You don't doubt yourself as a healer. Why are you going to doubt yourself getting the message out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in terms of the skills, a lot of the stuff that you're mentioning definitely requiring developing your own voice and developing the ability to speak publicly, sometimes on the spot, sometimes, in interviews that you don't know what you're going to be asked for, what are you going to be talking about. Sometimes you have opportunity to prep or rehearse. How do you go about this, what's called traditional media training, right? That if you went to like a traditional, big shot PR firm, they always make sure all of their, whoever they present, executives or leaders, they go through this media training and they come out as polished as possible. Message is always on point. How does it work in this conscious PR world and in the spiritual world?
Well, it's different. If you're overtrained, people can pick up on it more quickly in the spiritual conscious world. So you want to stand in your authenticity, and it's important as you're getting the message out that you remember that. And you want to also work with someone. I mean, I can't say this enough. That's why I've been in the game for 10 years and I decided to come up with this course because it's so important to work with someone and learn from someone who has already done it.
So, is there something people can do in addition to the course? Is it something that they can do on their own, just consciously? I think sometimes, just putting your attention to something like a skill that you would like to acquire. Is there something that you feel is really crucial in this ability to speak your truth and come off as authentic as possible that people can practice on their own?
I would say that the most important bit of all of this is that you figure out where your skills are the strongest in the public relations arena and capitalize on those skills and employ freelancers who have the other set of skills. Okay, for example, I know what I need to get to whoever needs to receive it, right? And I know what it's supposed to look like, but I am not gifted as a graphic artist. So I hire graphic artists, and tell them what I want. And then they give me back something that looks like what I want. And then I can take it to people. Canva is great for doing a rough draft. If you're not skilled in a particular area, there's nothing wrong with it. There are freelancers in every area that you can work with, who can help you and be a part of your team. Teams today are not what they were. Teams used to be employees. Now teams are comprised of freelancers. So, hire what you need.
And you can get incredible people on a very small budget, especially if you kind of open your horizons to, other parts of the world where there's amazing, skillful people. And it could be as small of a task as, editing content for you or creating a graphic. I think a lot of people have this idea is like, okay, if I need a graphic person, I have to kind of retain somebody and have this like a monthly set budget, which they might not have. But I think instead, like you said, like a lot of people not only willing to work and incredible experts willing to work on as freelancers, but they also willing to work on a very small projects, right? With the idea that it might grow in the future and it may be just one thing that you need right now. But next month, there will be another small thing that you need. So as you expand, you have to give yourself permission also to find those people that will help you expand and have them available on a call or email, whenever you need them. And they're incredible people that are willing to do that and help you in that way. So just wanted to mention that. And that's been my experience as well.
Yes, and Fiverr is a great resource, for just about anything you could think of to bring onto your team. Fiverr will have someone who does it. So
yes, I agree. That's where I actually find a lot of the people to help. Even this podcast is edited on Fiverr by one of the experts that I found there, and it's been incredible.
Yeah. So, there are things out there that you can utilize to help package yourself. You definitely want to have, and this is the last thing that I'm thinking of in terms of packaging, you want to have a one sheet. And all that basically is a quick glance for editors, producers, talent bookers. You want them to be able to, because they're busy. They're very busy and they're looking at people all day long for different projects. So you want them to be able to have something where they take that quick look at you and they get all the information that you've put in there. Now, it's usually only a paragraph or so, but with your contact information, if you have a media expert or a PR person, it would say, for media inquiries, a picture of yourself and an achievement and get that out. Maybe that achievement is that you're a great healer and you have a fabulous testimonial from someone who has had great success with you. That could be your achievement. Maybe you've been honored with some sort of award. That can be your achievement. So that's a one sheet is fundamentally important.
Yes, I agree. And to add to that, as a podcast host, I get exposed to some of those one-sheeters from my guests, and some of them are really amazing and super helpful because some
Mm-hmm.
of them also add, for example, topics that people can speak on, which is so helpful for me as a host just to kind of identify. So they
Yes.
will come in with like one sheeter that has all the information I need, like you mentioned, the photo, a quick bio, not like a 3-page bio, because
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're going for something like, TV appearance or podcast episode, you might have only literally a few seconds to introduce yourself. And if you want to be super helpful, I would include also a 1-sentence bio and a paragraph bio. So you give different length depending on the use that people need, and even topics that you can speak on, because then you give people ideas. Oh, if I always wanted to do an episode on topic X and I didn't even know that this person might be expert on the subject, it kind of gives me a lot of ideas to chew on. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah. And rather than one sentence, they might want to try a title and then the paragraph bio, because most people, their bio is longer than one sentence, and you also don't want to duplicate what you're saying. So it might be an opening line, like a tagline. And then you have in the bio, full bio, which is a paragraph, the description of what it is that you do and who you are.
Yes, absolutely. So I think we covered a lot of kind of the basics, right? In terms of the content that they should have ready. How about imagery? And I think this is such a hot topic because I see a lot of healers and spiritual leaders, and I would say especially women, as they get into the space, they have this pressure of they have to have this perfect photos of them represented as beautifully, as inspiring as possible. And a lot of people have hired incredible photographers these days to work with them to help craft that. Not just their headshot, but a full narrative of what their brand is all about. That might include more aspirational photos, maybe photos of them in action doing their craft. Beautiful photos still, even in our AI age, they still cost, and it is still quite an investment. How do you feel about people investing in those visuals? And do you find it's necessary, or can just go and get into that expansion mode with just having kind of like a plain, authentic picture of yourself?
If you're doing it in a way that's cheap and cheerful, you can you can just have a friend take a series. iPhones are so good these days. Take a series of pictures of you, because you're going to need to pick the one that's best. And you may have one picture for one type of media and another picture for another type of media with a different one sheet. So you can easily have a friend take a series of great pictures of you. Then from that, pull the one or two that you like best and start using it. And as more money comes in, maybe you want to use a professional photographer. And a lot of professional photographers these days will do some of the work on an iPhone. So, remember that.
Yeah, everything is way more accessible these days. That is so true.
Definitely accessible.
You might think. Yeah.
Yes.
And even some of the local or up and coming photographers that, are willing to help on this journey. Or maybe one of your clients that happens to have a great, camera and to be an amateur photographer, that if you change and transform their lives, they might be willing to help in return and do some sort of
definitely a barter. Definitely barters are great. It's a great way to get some of what you need, and they're getting some of what they need. Another idea is to go to a school that offers photography. And then you can get a student who, and this is part of that barter system, you can get a student who needs their portfolio, more pictures in their portfolio, and you're getting the photographs.
So, I mean, I hope we gave people a lot of ideas and encouragement to pursue their own publicity, whether they use the help of someone like Lydia or they try to do it on their own. And I do think there's a way to do it. If you set your intention on it, you can master anything. Is there anything else, any other kind of big piece of advice that we might have overlooked in this conversation or something you want to bring into the field?
I think we've covered just about everything. This was wonderful. It was a wide, sweeping interview. And I hope that people's takeaway from this interview is some of these ideas, and they feel free to listen to this interview a few times to like touch different things and go back and try them for yourself. You know, the beauty of today is that you can try on different services. You can try on different parts of your personal media kit that you have an opportunity to create the way that you want to create it. You know, and if you don't like it, that's okay. Start over, right? Do it again. Figure out what you don't like, figure out what you do like, and then take that and go forward to brand yourself and your company, your practice.
Absolutely. I think that's a great advice. And sometimes we forget, especially for anyone who's like me, who's blessed with a brain that is a planner. And a perfectionist, we have this need to have everything strategized and planned out and then perfectly executed. And sometimes there's not much room for this trial and error, which I agree is sometimes this is where you uncover some of the greatest opportunities. So I would love to encourage people as well. And I myself, actually, I put myself on the spot. I want to start doing Instagram Lives, which I've never done, and it's a new area for me, and I might fail completely. It might be me talking to myself, and but that's what kind of excites me about it. It's embracing that unknown, right?
Yes. I think you'll be fine, darling.
Thank you
Just
so much.
Get out there and do it.
Thank you so much. Well, it was such a pleasure to have you and just have this in-depth conversation. I do hope we sparked a lot of motivation and intention, and also sprinkled some great advice and all your wisdom. It's just so wonderful to have you in this space and guiding practitioners. They need your help, and I'm excited to check out your course and recommend it to others. Thank you for making it accessible for people to study as they can in group and private in all different shapes and forms. And thanks for coming on this podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. And I was excited to share information with people. And it was a great opportunity to speak with you.
Yes. Great connections, like you said, preaching. We're following our own advice. We connected in a conference, in a trade show, and here we are.
And if anyone has any questions and would like some short answers, you can reach me at satoriXPR@gmail. Satori is Satori.
Amazing. And we'll put that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for being so accessible to our listeners. Again, it's a deep pleasure.
Thank you.